Oh yeah. Oh,
Hello, I'm Patricia Walls with the Ascension Portal Community Podcast, and I've got here with me today Clive Newland and Dee Light, and they're going to share some really exciting news with you about a new venture that they have. So let me tell you a little bit about them. So Clive Newland has been working with as a perfumer for over 3 decades, working with people's immune systems and frequencies, using his alchemical knowledge to commune with the human body and facilitate transformation at the cellular level. Dee, Dee is a lot of things, aren't you?
I am.
So she's a businesswoman. She is a designer. She's an artist, a muse to Clive, and they have been in business for a long time, as well as partnership. I think over 30 years, right? Just celebrated. Yeah. And so they have two businesses. They have Manifesto of Light and Dee Light.
Light and Co. Yep.
Light and Co. Okay.
Yep.
And I want them to tell you about this new adventure that I'm really excited about, a partnership. So I'm not going to spoil it for you. Okay. So they're going to tell you their story. I hope I've encouraged them to tell you their story and how they came to where they are with this new adventure. So there you go.
Over to us.
Over to you.
Thank you, Patricia.
thank you, Patricia.
Thank you. Thank you for your generosity and your shine.
And hello to everyone.
Yes. And greetings from Australia.
Yep.
Sunshine Coast in Australia. So I just might preempt this by simply saying that, yeah, Clive and I have been together 35 years, married 30 years. This is the very first time that we've ever had a conversation like this in public. So just be warned. Where to start? I might just put it this way. So both of us have been married before, and I met Clive at the end of the 80s, so 1989. And I had just started to wake up a tiny bit, and I met him at a relationship workshop. Although prior to that, we had been introduced. And I remember Clive walking in the room, and I think I asked you your name, and you said, no, what's yours? And I said, I asked you first. And there was this electricity in the room that everybody felt. It was like, oh. And then we did this relationship workshop together. So it's the end of the 80s. And we both sat down, and both of us were interested in somebody else. So we got paired together, and we had written the definitive list of what we were looking for in a partner. Really, really as definitive as we could, having both come out of marriages, etc. And funny that they matched.
Well, we sort of came to sort out the other relationship that we were interested in. And as it happened, and look, I must say for me, I had made my list a couple of years earlier. So I had that list, and I was there. I was contemplating somebody else, yes. And then Dee would come into this mix. So I had to work out two. And there was the A list and the B list. And so my A list was critical. That was all values and sense of things. But the important thing with this whole list story is that for it to work, I have to be prepared to be that list, because I can't ask the other or seek the other to be what I'm not. Oh, like you'll complete me, you'll fulfill me. That's such a story. We see it in the movies and everywhere like that. It's idolized. But for me, coming out of a previous marriage, I recognized like making money, work, all that sort of stuff wasn't hard. It was easy. But having a good relationship, a quality relationship, I was not getting that message. I was not clear on that. I didn't grow up in a good story with that with my parents, even though they liked each other. They didn't have that love for each other. It was like people stuck with each other who they would leave if they could, but they wouldn't, you know. And so you grew up in that energy of all this confusion around what those values and things are. So as a bloke in my 20s, working my way through that, sorting myself out, I learned by the time I got to about 27, 28, I didn't really understand shit about that. I could do all these other things, no problems at all. Lead a successful life, have a property portfolio, whatever you want to call it. But I couldn't manage a personal relationship with someone that had depth and value. I could do it superficial, but not at depth and value. So that was the quest for me, and it was a real catharsis through a career or through everything, you know, to comprehend this. So I'm not saying everybody has to do that. I'm not saying every bloke should have to do that or every woman should, but sometimes, you know, you got to commit to an idea and you got to commit to yourself. So it was about sorting me out. And so I moved to a new state I moved in Queensland, and I went to work at a luxury resort. Why? Because I'd done all this other clearing work, and the people who came to that luxury resort, who were in the top 5 percentile of Australia, you know, finances, wealth, all that sort of stuff, pop stars, all that sort of stuff, they came there to sort their shit out. So I was, what's the word? You sort of parachuted in a way for a few years there working with people to do this because I'd already done it. So we had this, I had this personal as well as professional interest in this new world. And so meeting Dee through similar people, I was prepped and primed. And so Dee would come into my life and the fortune of living where we were. And so we were ready for I was ready for her and she for I, sort of thing. So, you know, that's part of the synchronicities of things, but you have to set it in place. You have to be willing to be that. You have to be willing to discharge or discard stuff. I mean, we're moving house at the moment, so we have to be prepared to let go of stuff. So they can be emotions, they can be feelings, they can be old stories, old values. It's just stuff as well. But you have to be prepared to take hold of the gold that's in there and work with that and discover things about myself that I didn't necessarily like. Could I correct them? Yes, I could. Start the work. You know, not expect somebody else on that list to fix it for me. They're just going to be my witness. So I'm her witness, she's mine, to help each other along. We're a conversation with each other. But Dee can't do it for me. I can't do it for her. And this would be like this ongoing conversation. So this then ripples through everything for us. You know, so you start off with a clean intention. I guess that's what I'm saying here. The intention that brought me to me and Dee to Dee, and then we come together. We establish this clarity early. So that's
and I'd underpin that by simply saying that lovely phrase of 1 and 1 equals 3. So that there are 2 pillars, and then they create the third, which is the relationship, which is like the Trinity. And so and I remember years ago Clive looking at me with great exasperation, and he said, why do we have to work on everything all the time? You know, it was like, you know, we had children, we had business and everything, and yet what called us through was the relationship all the time, because this had to be in harmony for us to do what we needed to do, which is the moment we've come to in time now. We've prepared all these years now in retrospect for this moment to now work together with such synergy and such clarity and such respect for each other's skills that we can offer that as a combined service out there. So I found him fascinating.
I found her fascinating too.
Oh, well, that's a good start. And the
not boring.
The compatibility and the energetics between the two of us has always been really palpable. You know, I know, let's say I was sitting at a bar, right? You know, up at the bar, all dressed up, and he walked in the room now, my mouth would go dry. I still, after 35 years, have that level of like, oh, who's he? Can I get to know him? You know, like And that is only there because we've cleared all the other resistance and the crud away when it came up in the 35 years. So we focus and we put the union, we put ourselves first. We have to clear that first, so then the union is clear. I guess that explains it. But
and it's part of that is this recognition of that. And both each of our own desires or commitment or willingness, because there are times when I haven't. I've been a bit of ego going on still, from time to time. Not a blokey thing at all, of course not, but it's very blokey, male, for people who don't quite understand that term. But it's like I'm open to learning, and that's the key thing. I'm open to learning. I'm open to doing something different if this doesn't work. So I'm not fixated to double down. I'll might try that, but I'll then go, gee, that doesn't work. And so the work I do, skincare or the perfumery and all the oils and everything, and with the pendulum work that has come into our lives, the last 10, 15 years on and off, thereabouts, but certainly coming through, I can't escape. I can't, win. It has to be, and I go, and I've learned so much about clearing because some of those fragments in my life still, if you like, carry an echo or an impression, like on a blackboard. You're trying to erase the stuff, but it still leaves a little faint line on there. And it's like, you got to get this out, got to get this out. And then you got clean space. And so it's been this really useful tool for me. And I've learned to do some pendulum work as well. So I can do this myself as well, but it's much more dynamic when we're doing it together. And the benefits are huge. And what could be problems over days or weeks or months, there was times when I'm not talking to you, I'm in a huff sort of thing over the years, or the kids are giving you a hard time or whatever, or teenagers. And it's like, it goes unresolved. Now it's sorted. It's sorted in seconds. Done. Not in the way. It's clean air. It's beautiful stuff. It's like getting into fresh, clean water. It's just, it's a form of nourishment to be this well.
Yeah.
That's the interesting thing. It's like we're shifting out of the normal world, which is all about conflict. People don't like each other. They don't want to be with each other, all that sort of stuff. Removing that pain and discomfort and letting that fall away, because a lot of it is not our story. We're actually living it through our, the parents or the grandparents or the society we're living in, the culture we live in, impressed upon us that you should, when it's, we've got guilt, we've got shame, we've got blame coming at us. It's peeling all that stuff off and getting clean air yourself, getting it into the blue sky yourself, and having it and saying, I deserve that. She deserves that. Let us enjoy this together, and then we can just go, see where this takes us. So it's a way of shifting the gears, finding the gears, because otherwise we're being suppressed and depressed and compressed. So it's like unfolding. It's like we talk about in the genetics. We're unfolding this thing out, and it's fresh energy, and it's free energy to us. It's absolutely free, and it's given to us by spirit or the earth or cosmos or however you want, and it's coming internally from us. So you're getting this wonderful harmonization and synergy going on, and then that's shared between you, and then that goes into your businesses or your activities. Wow,
And there's a beautiful recognition that Clive has his genius. He has his pocket of wisdom, as do you, as does everybody on this planet, by the way. And
sometimes several pockets.
Yes. And so it is for me to support that, to honor that, to give that, to support him to be all of that in the world, with no compromise. And I'll just put that in, that if that meant that he had to leave, then so be it, because that is the priority. And yet the paradox within that is, because I'm so supportive of that, of course he stays. And so the same for me, because we set each other free to be the fullest expression of ourselves and support that. And so that's the paradox. Of course we want to be together within that. And so sometimes that actually requires some really strong boundaries on my part or his part that just says, no, I'm not going to put up with this. I'm not going to put up with you not showing up to your fullest degree. Can I assist you to come through those fears or those whatever that is? But I'm not moving. You know, and it's like an ultimatum that says, if you're not willing to do that, then I don't want to carry you. And this is the same for both of us. I'm here to ensure that you live your fullest life. And that is it's a gift. It's an enormous gift, but it's also quite confronting to the other that just says, here you go. You know, particularly at this time.
Well, it's like a drive for yourself. This is part of what we each chose, and then each other is then a benefactor, but also witness. And so the encouragement is there, the willingness. You know, key thing here is the willingness to do things in an other way, reconsider something or consider it again, and develop it in an improved way. Improve it,
and hold each other to account.
Yeah.
That's really important. We hold each other to account in terms of the bigger story.
But we're also, this is a memory story as well, because we have a sense of previous connection, right, in different times. And so there's a memory that's carried through the impulse of time, or whatever you want to call it, the consciousness stream. There are many terms. So it's a recognition of that. And, love, it's like letting yourself feel love, letting yourself have love, letting yourself experience love. And that's, that is defined in all sorts of different ways, and people try to own it. The church tries to own it. Different organizations try and own love and will give you if you do this and all that sort of thing. But to allow yourself to have your own expression of it, is a memory story. And then we each assist each other with that remembrance or membering. I call it membering. It's like you're putting yourself back together again. You're remembering, not dismembering. You're membering. You're putting yourself back into place, and the other is helping that with you as well. And for me, with the oils, funny in cleaning cleaning up and packing stuff. Yesterday, I noticed that there's a Lemurian wa. It's all about memory. Okay. And has an association with smell. So guess what? Smell, that's my world. Aromatics. So that's why it's so deep. And in some ways, how I've been able to progress through this and with this, and with each other, and through creating the businesses or creating the products, if you like, or the concept of the aroma apothecary we set up. So it's like, I remember you, I remember me through remembering you. And it's like we each have, I said this in our previous talk we had together, Patricia, we each have our own unique smell, our own unique scent. And this will be in the astral, and this will be in other fields around us, in our whole beingness. And so it's not just eyesight recognizing each other, or she's a man, I'm a woman, like whatever that is. There's these other hidden energetics that bring us together that we recognize. And that's what we're, strengthening. And so, I've had, like love is the fuel of remembering. Love powers the memory. So the more you create the love for yourself, the more you create the love for another. But it hasn't always been like this for me. I can tell you, I've got a little 5-line thing here I found again, going through the stuff that you write down.
It's all new to me, by the way.
In times when, if I may read it, would it be okay? Yeah, okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you. Look, in times when I was still a bit of an ass, and in a way that I was an ass to myself, right? And not being good to me. So I used to say this to myself at different times, and I would remind myself and sit myself down and just bring myself back to steady. So he goes like this, 5 lines, and it has a bit of a rhyme to it. It has a bit, I should say, a rhythm. So it goes like this: no matter what my upbringing was, no matter what my life is, I am truly inspired and deeply grateful for it. I totally love and accept myself. I allow all my contributions to flourish. And I say that all my contributions, because some of them didn't work terribly well. I didn't, with a certain family member, it didn't end, hasn't ended in the storybook story, but it's a contribution. I did what I could do. And now I can turn blame, shame, and guilt on myself or on the other, but I'm not going to. It's a contribution into this world. Not every seed that you throw onto the ground sprouts. Some aren't, but each of those seeds is still important, each single one. I denigrate myself if I don't recognize all those contributions as all. I put myself into the corner, I bend and fold a little bit into the system that wants to crush me down. No, let's rise through it. So it's, all of life. So, it's not death, it's all of life. Death's a part of life. So it's just, I could go deeper into that, but I won't. I think they're just meaningful to me. So thank you for moving.
If you sense the and I'll use the word, the intensity of this human here, and so and the depths to which he's willing to go, and so with that comes a level of privilege, that I'm aware of, that I'm living with. But there's also a level of how can I behave and be without me bending and folding, all right, and yet allowing the fullness of him to be there. And so there are really, really, really simple things like this that Clive has taught me, and I've written about it various times. He basically said, I don't. And my mother's passed now, so she won't be listening to this, on your mum. But he basically said, I don't want your mother in our bed. Right? I don't need to be mothered. Don't ever mother me. So I was like, okay, all right. And so he came to the relationship capable of looking after himself. He didn't need me. Like, hello, how beautiful is that? I can hear every woman going, you mean you don't buy his socks? No.
Or undies.
Or undies or anything.
Shirts.
No.
Clothes.
And
Glasses.
so it's like, oh, okay.
But you can come along with me if you want to watch me shop.
Yes.
You can, you're invited, but you're not in charge.
Yes. And so we did that actually one day.
In control, I should say.
Clive had quite a bit of cash in his pocket, and we went shopping, and he just said, you, meaning me, watch and learn. This is great. You love it. So he went into this big Italian boutique. He was ready to buy stuff. And
they had a nice coffee machine in there too. And
yes.
they said, long macchiato for the lady.
So I just sat there.
And they said, made her a lovely coffee.
And my job was to do nothing. And so there was a very, flirtatious owner of the store. And so she looked after Clive for a couple of hours. Try on this. You be quiet, watch and learn.
Enjoy. Like, so, pressure's off. You don't have to. See, for a lot of women, or particularly, they're taken on that role. It's not their choice. It's like.
And she would say to me, what do you think? And I'd say, great, ask him. Ask him.
Yeah.
Because a lot of women will go into the change room, put their hands behind their husband's trousers and pull them up and go, I'm going to correct this. And what about that? And they're controlling the whole thing.
We saw it in this very shop. We saw that happening. And it's people in their 40s. And you go, what? It's like you're a 3 or 4-year-old, it's like.
When I go into
I'll
put it this way. When I go into the bedroom I want a man. I want to be with somebody who doesn't need me to complete them, because then I can surrender. And that is the dynamic of the masculine and the feminine, which we have found, because you can hear in me that I'm a very strong woman. My masculine, she's all worked at, right? So I had to really refine the feminine, right? And yet,
because that gets the shit kicked out of women, particularly in the business world.
Yes.
You got to be you got to have balls. You got to be tough. You got to leave your ovaries outside the door. And you go, that's total crap. And part of our thing here, this is important for me to say this, part of our thing here is to bring integrity back into the business operation or the interaction. so that the quality of product you're handling has an ethic and a value behind it that is in actually respectful of a human relationship, not is denigrating somebody. Somebody has to leave their heart and soul at the door to walk through here to make their hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, bleed some poor bugger to death over here, to walk back out and say, well, I've got my house and my car and my life and my kids are in private school and all that shit. And you go, well, that's not ethical at all. That's not a human life. That is another life going on. So part of this is, if you like, part of the ethic that, and part of the difficulty sometimes is people are so predisposed to that battle. They expect it and they demand it because they're used to it. And again, this is the changing of the gears. We have to create a world where we are not, and this is the creation story for us, creating the world where we are delivering a different way of doing things, modeling that, and also showing the interaction. Not always perfect, but we're not perfect. I mean, what's that saying? Don't let perfect
The enemy.
The enemy of good.
Yeah.
So we're doing good for ourselves, doing good into the space, but we're not stupid either. We know what's going on. So we're bringing a restitution or a restoration. We're, bringing a generative factor back into life so that we are whole and whole. And the same in the business deal. I'm not going to rip you off. We're going to find a way of doing this together so that you benefit, I benefit, we benefit, and the whole benefits. So rather than trying to bleed something out, it's like, how can we help you flourish more? So it's a different, it's a different intention. It's a cleaner intention, a pure intention, but we need to return to that. This is that time, and
so
that's
we
what
have to be that.
Yes.
We have to hold that. We have to hold the codes, the frequency, the resonance, everything of that ourselves. It starts here in this union before we can take that out. So,
and that's not to denigrate anybody who's going through all sorts of strife or hell or whatever like that. And whether you're single or whether you're a couple or whether you're on the edge of things or whatever it is, it's all about looking after you. You've got to look after you, find your way to look after that, and then you're not available to somebody else unless you're available to yourself.
Yeah.
You got to keep your own energies in good shape. I talk in terms when the plant world, this is your earth. This is my own personal earth. My body is my own earth. This is, Dee's own earth. So she gets to look after it. I don't have to look after, that's not my responsibility. Together, we look after, our earths together sort of thing. So we're building on that, but Dee, again, is not responsible for my bits. I'm not responsible, it's a freedom.
But then there's a beautiful overlay within that, which is that I had to learn to receive.
Yes.
And so I became Clive's muse as far as the oils were concerned. And I think he told the story about the roses. So he made me a rose cream and a rose serum. And what so we were looking at the outer complexion, but what he didn't realize, or he did realize, I'm sure he did, was that the daily application of those roses would nudge me over the edge of myself so that I could surrender to me. So this is the sense of like self-love, but it's beyond that. It's so that you can be the energy of that love. And so the roses have assisted me to do that.
Mm.
And so I often talk to people when we speak about relationship, and I'll use this analogy and I'll say, so you as a woman, can you stand on the edge of the cliff backwards and just fall and know that you'll be caught? And if the answer is no, then you have some work to do. So it's that I intrinsically know underneath it all that he will catch me. And that's the dynamic we're speaking about as far as masculine and feminine.
And so we each are our own balance of that. We each are our own masculine, feminine balance. So it's not like she's the woman and I'm the man and I have to be the masculine one and she has to be the feminine one. No, I am my own balance of masculine, feminine, and Dee is her own balance of masculine, feminine. And this is shifting. It's living. It's a living, breathing process, right? So this goes back to that the love. It's in the memory, but we are creating memory. It's not memory from the past, although that is, other times. but we are creating new memory. We're creating fresh memory. We're creating, in this instant we're having here today, here online across the globe, across these realms. We're creating a fresh memory into the landscape of ideas and process of this. We're breaking new ground.
We always have this sense, this evolutionary edge.
Yes,
yeah, exactly. As you said, that you just right at the edge of it, as you are hanging over it, because we're bringing the new through our own bodies and through our own consciousness here into this realm together, and we're doing it as a partnership. That's our job. That's the job we signed up for and we agreed to. Not everybody does that. Everybody has their own path. This is ours.
And that's part of the journey, is like, to go to the story, like how I created my original shop, the Newland Aroma Apothecary, it just came to me in a dream. I was sharing rooms with a chiropractor. I was 50-50 with him. And I walked past this place day after, over weeks, months. And then I saw that it was available, and I had a dream that night, and the picture was there. And it's like I went and saw the guy who had a shop next door, and he was about to, flog it and sell it. And I said, no, I'd like to do this with it. And he ummed and ahed, oh, yeah, right, yeah, sure. And then we did, and we were there over 10 years. But there we were able to we became this mecca in the world, if you like, in Noosa, in the junction in Noosa Heads. For a whole lot of people came through that place from all around the world. It's like one of those holiday destinations, but in the Australian landscape. Everybody in other parts of Australia wants to be on the Sunshine Coast, because it's, heaven on a stick in many ways. So here we go, heaven on a stick. So we're bringing heaven to earth. So we also want to be in the ideal place ourselves. So our bodies help to bring us here. We had our daughter with us. She was 2 when we came here. Our son was conceived and born here, sort of thing. So, we've given them as much of life as we can give, as we were given by our own parents. But we've also lived our own life as well here, under the best conditions that we can give ourselves. And that's a recognition of that. Listen to your body. Your body will say, do I want to be here or not? But most of us go, oh, no, my mind's over this. No, you're going to have to do this for the next 20, 30 years, and then retire and probably die within 2 or 3, because that's all that's left. And it's like, literally not going to do that. So that was, again, that turnaround for me in the 30s. How do I live my life out the way, what is here? And so the discovery begins, and therefore I meet someone like Adi along the way, which I didn't think it was going to happen consciously. Might have subliminally thought, well, wouldn't that be great? But don't know, it's a don't know sort of question. So part of life is I don't know.
And yet, the beautiful thing, Patricia, when you actually laid down on a piece of paper our skills and our talents, in many ways, that's where we complement and complete each other, is because we have all those skills. So I'll come back to the apothecary. So Clive created the rose.
And the apothecary, if people don't know it, apothecary is where people used to make up stuff in the past, like make it up from basics and then create things. Normally in the medical health world, but the aroma apothecary, I specialised in aromatic oils, aromatic plants. Yeah.
And so it was established back at the end of the 90s and had a massage room. And so people would come in and they would get a blend made for themselves. And we also had the rose cream that I was selling, and we were selling into Hong Kong, this sort of thing. But at some point, there was a recognition that we were going to have to leave the street because the energies had changed. We're going to have to go from that to something larger. And Clive had made me a very exquisite perfume from pink lotus and many other things in there. There was just a tiny bit of this lotus made in the world that year. And I remember telling somebody about it, and they said, well, why are you housing it why is it in a funny little jar like that if it's so rare? Like, hello? He said it needs to be in jewels. So this is back in 2008. And me being me, went, yeah, you're right. You're right. So I established Manifesto of Light back then to bring the rare oils and Clive's genius and house it properly and bring it to the world, and also house it in jewels and crystals. And so fast forward to 2024, that's precisely what we've done. So this is just an example of one of our bottles. That there is a 44 carat crystal on the top with twin flames of brushed gold. So that holds my pink lotus perfume. And of course, the pendulums that some people may have been privy to, these pendulums here, which are part of the company, have an internal vial that can house a rare perfume. So basically, it was about listening and recognizing his genius. And as I said, it was a privilege because I was the muse. I was the one who listened and experienced his deepest secrets, his world. Nobody else did. And his world is so exquisite, and yet people have to be ready to receive it. And we're just at that point now. Just now. Just now. So it's taken a long time. We're both, well, I'm 68 and he's 65, and here we are. So it's like, how do we combine all that we do together? And it's all about resonance and frequency. It's all about the human energetic field. It's all about consciousness. But to do that from a place of a union that can actually work together, which creates the core of who we are and what we do, the rest can go out into the world. So we can work with the oils in people's businesses in the air. We can work with oils in people's relationship. The pendulums clear businesses, they clear relationships. So between the oils, the pendulums, the jewels, and our own energy and our own consciousness, we're here to establish union in all sorts of places. You know, whether that be within a company, or whether that would be within a relationship, or whether it just simply be within an individual, that union of the masculine and feminine perfectly balanced.
I just add this little moment. We're currently, the world is at the Olympics in Paris, right? And every 4 years, the flame gets lit in general. Well, behind us here, and they extinguish it as well, okay, after the things. Here behind us is a picture of an exquisite lily. It's been called the eternal flame. Now, I invite everyone to look at their own plants or flowers in their lives. Always, nature is giving you an eternal flame to remind you of your own exquisiteness, to remind you of all those things. And particularly the aromats, I mean, lilies, you know, the lotuses and many of the tropical lilies. This is from a tropical lily up the coast of Queensland here, off an island off there. A much blown up picture, but you can see the liquidity that's within the flower that was taken over a moment, well, several seconds of time. But it's this exquisite eternal flame. So it is there, and it's about looking after your own internal flame as well, keeping it solid, keeping it, you know, there, and not just flickering, but actually engaged and having a, you know, it has a role to do as well. But you can ask for this. You can ask, you can, you know, again, part of receiving is asking. Part of the willingness to ask is, are you good enough? Well, of course you are. That's why I read out that thing about no matter what my upbringing, I used to not think very highly of myself because that was the way I was brought up. You know, I was brought up to be fodder for a battlefield somewhere, okay? Be left on a battlefield, you know, sort of thing. That's not the world I've ended up choosing. So it's like I am of more value here in my own life, into into the whole world of myself, living out my story rather than living out somebody else's story, right? So, you know, to me, I look at this and I go, it's an exquisite moment, but it's everywhere all the time. And you can look at it in someone's eyes. You can look at it, and everybody has a pet. I'm not so much sure about cats, but dogs, certainly. You look in a dog's eyes and you see love looking back at you, and you go, thank you so much. You know, it's like, well, and I'm sure we've all got dog stories we could tell here, but sorry to the cat people. I'm sure there's cats out there.
Well, cats have staff.
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. So questions, Patricia. I mean, we can talk for ages.
Yep.
Just steer us where you'd like it to go.
So, so I had a thought,
Mm.
And we talked about it before we actually came on camera, that the two of you have all of these years that you have honed this relationship, this partnership, this agreement that you have to work together and keep each other accountable. And so you shared with me early in the year, you shared with me where you were taking that and working with other couples. And you mentioned working with the pendulums and the oils with businesses, but you specifically told me about working with couples to help them to do the same that you have done in some 30 odd years. And as we all know, there are those that do that work. We do that work to get better, and sometimes we struggle in it. And then we do that work so that others can come along and benefit from it, and they don't have to do 30 years of struggle, right? And so that's what the two of you are offering. And I wanted you to share how that looks. What does it look like, what you're offering?
It's embryonic still, okay, and it'll really sort of solidify once we move into September. One of the areas that we're really cognizant of, and it may be able to happen online, but definitely within person. There aren't many role models like us for the next generation coming through. If you're looking at conscious relationship, how does it look in 30 years? How do I maintain this? Give me a role, give me something to look at to say that this is possible. And so that is us. Okay. And so I came up, and we still have to agree with this, but small groups, because we have a thing called women's circles, right? And women come to circles so easily. But I thought, what about a round table? Because the round table is when the men come. We need to bring the men. We really do. We need to open up the space for the men to appear within our circles. And so I see them as the new, from Newland, new light round tables, where we can actually bring all of it to the table to discuss how it's going to look within marriage, within couples, that is conscious and that is forward thinking, that can then bring through this energy of sacred marriage into relationship, but keep the humor there, keep the groundedness there, keep the practicalities there. Don't make it too spiritual. Don't make it sort of, unattainable. And so within that, there will be the pendulums come in and do a lot of work, a whole lot of clearing. And then the oils come in. And then our conversation. I've worked with clients that I just hit a brick wall, and then Clive comes in and he speaks with the man, or he speaks with the woman from a man's point of view that I can't do. So when you get both of us working in tandem with a couple or with a group, you're going to get the richness of all of it, because we care. We truly care that this next generation, who are bringing up the next generation, have a model that says this is attainable, and it's like, here are these people, they're in their late 60s, they're not on any drugs, they're really well, they're not retiring, they're working, they're bringing through, they're being of service. Wow, thank you. And so that is what we get up in the morning for. And within that, and I think I might have said this to you at different times, the gift to me and to Clive, and I'll speak for myself here, is for me to be received. The fullness of me to be received, so that can actually be handed on like a baton change to somebody else. That's the fullest gift to me. And so we're at a point now where it's like, let's just bring all of us to the table to gift to each other in all our pockets of wisdom, so we can create this new realm. We call it the new earth, whatever it is, but this new way of being in the world that is the fullest expression of all of us together. There you go.
Yeah, it's really bringing that coherence in. So, like, you know, the ethics and the values and the way it's actually, what it says on the box is what it does. Not that what it says on the box or in the ad is exactly what it doesn't do. You know, thank you for signing there, you're screwed. No, that's completely gone. This has to work for everybody. And so it has to be accountable. And so it begins here. We are, you know, attesting to that. But the invitation is that you have to be your invitation to yourself to want or to seek that other world and demonstrate it through, rather than just go, oh, it's too bloody hard or cop out. But you need accountability with that, because it's easy to get a little bit acquiescent or very acquiescent. And that's what our general society has become. We were accepting, here in Australia, the health issues are accumulating at a massive rate because we've become accustomed to health as being sickness, not well as being active and living good, living well, living your best choices. Most people are living their worst choices. Sometimes it's now nightmares, and across all the landscapes of life, you know, from the finances through to the relationships breaking up, people losing, you know, it's a bloody mess. So, and there's no leadership coming from our politicians in general. There's a few out there that seem to have a backbone, but most are in the pocket of something else. So this is about us. We're living an unbridled life, you know, getting back to a level of wildness here, you know, getting our guts wild, living well, getting our gut energy up, getting our mitochondrial flowing in so that our blood systems and our thinking systems are operative, so that we can bring our soul into a residence that can really live through rather than be compressed and suppressed out. So we want the cosmology here for us. We want the earth, we want the planet, the plants, the animals thriving, so we can actually have heaven on earth, or earth on heaven, or however you wish to view that. And we sit in the middle of, as this conductor or this communicator with it, rather than being this secondary thing to something else, pulling levers. And it's like, and that's part of the world that has to be, you have to walk away from. And sometimes you're walking towards something, you go, I don't know how this is going to turn out. And that's that issue. People will not seek, they prefer the devil they know than something else, but it may not be the devil. That's a really good devil's game, isn't it? So it's like, you might actually get something better. Are you ready for that? Are you willing for that? Are you inviting that in? Are you willing to receive that? Are you willing to give that? And so we have to introduce fresh language into conversations with people, rather than just keep rattling on the old stuff, which actually makes you feel like, I don't know, I just want to pull the doona over my head and just stay in bed all day, you know, and eat ice cream or something, or, you know, and it's like, no, we got to go the other way. I mean, you know, like, really, come on.
I'll just add in this while I was listening while Clive was speaking. And so Clive has, for some people, and a Syrian energy. When we talk about Syrian, we talk about that blue. So his eyes are very, very blue when he's working and when he's speaking his truth. And that Syrian energy is about impeccability and truth and integrity. And so over the years, I have witnessed him in places of, you know, school management committees or various different places where he will throw through his own being a spotlight on that which is out of integrity. It's his nature to be that. So that is confronting, because all the time you're going to be held accountable with that energy, and he can't help but not be that.
I do it in a nice way, as nice as I can.
And so,
but you're going to burn, because it's going to hurt, because it's like, and I've done it in businesses as well.
Yeah.
You know, in leadership things and stuff like that. It's like, They don't like it because you're actually lifting the lid off their poor behavior or their poor performance, and they think they're doing great. But you prove it and show it another way, and you go, no, you're not. It's actually an illegal action that you're doing. So it's not by the laws of the state or the country, and you think you can get away with it.
And so these,
just go, no, sorry.
and the beauty is that when I look at with what I do with the pendulums and the charts and the resonance and ask some questions, if we're to bring our business has to operate in these higher frequencies, it has to, that's the resonant compatibility. And so if there are businesses that are operating down in the third dimensional pyramid type, win and lose, screw somebody, with the way things are moving, you've got to bring that business up into these higher dimensions for it to survive and to thrive. It can't thrive down there the way we're all moving. All right. So this is the shift of consciousness too. And so that level of accountability, impeccability, integrity. And so some of the oils that we put within the business, bring that in. There's one oil that we put into, or Clive puts into a business that actually creates that within a business where those who are out of integrity have to leave because they can't stand the smell.
Well, it's not so much the smell, it just changes the frequency, you see, but the smell's in there, but it's in alignment with whoever the CEO is or the business owner and what they're choosing to do. And people naturally want to leave afterwards, and even they're ready to leave. And then therefore you're going to attract to you people who are much more in alignment with your thinking or your wavelengths or your frequency fields of where you want to take the business. So it really falls down to that, again, in intention.
Yes.
It's a bit, really falls down to that. And the other parties we've experienced that have left, they've happily gone on to other jobs. And even the owners actually help them to move on, because there's just somehow it's purifying out the lack of clarity. So that, because often friction or politics in businesses or councils or school boards or corporations are due to lack of clarity. So that's in part what I bring, but that's through the plants and the oils. And so the clarity is a form of love. And so we remember how to bring clarity in, because we have had this on the plane, on these realms.
Yes.
We know clarity. Why suppress it? We want to express it. So it's like, let it run free. So, and we're all a beneficiary of that, unless you want to control it.
If I bring it back to the everyday,
Yep.
I mean, the depth of conversation that we have, particularly over the last 4 years, is quite extraordinary. The depths of conversations that we can have. But if I bring it back to the everyday, the dynamics of being married together, living together, and the dynamics of that. I am incredible. So any men listening to this, please learn to cook. Okay. I mean, our son, from the age of 12, he learned to cook, and amazing asset that he has, that he can just, so because, like as we spoke the other day, Clive does the soups. He does the really nourishing soups. I am nourished by his cooking, and then vice versa, I cook. And he gardens, he will grow things, he will grow all the greens, everything for us. So this sense of being nourished, but he does it for himself first in that regard, because he can't nourish me unless he himself is nourished.
Right.
And so there's no delineation as to do you put the rubbish out?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Pretty much.
Yeah, good. Okay. I clean the toilets and he puts the rubbish out. That's sort of like the area where it's understood that, I'll do that.
And you like doing showers, cleaning there. And
Yeah.
I'll do the vacuuming generally, sort of thing. So there's these different little, falls this way. And look, if you've got a problem with toothpaste, someone leaves the lid off, whatever, get the second tube.
Yeah, I have my own.
That's right. So if it's an issue, if it's an issue for you, Clive, which it was, get yourself another tube. It took me years to figure that one out. God, let me just tell you, it's like, why create a conflict when you don't need it? Don't need it. Why? Just get a second tube. God, solve, move on.
And I'll say this too, I have my own room. I have my room that I can go to, that I can sleep in if I don't want to be disturbed.
Yeah.
So we don't make the house it's like, because this is something that I hear women say, God, I wish I didn't have to sleep with him. I can't sleep very well because he snores. And I simply say, go and sleep in another room. I can't because he would be upset that I've left him and he'd think there's something wrong with the marriage. Hello? The marriage is going to be fantastic if you both had a good night's sleep. You know, sex is not confined to night. I mean, this is the whole thing of like, can we just shake it all up? The whole house is where we live and we move in and out of it and we work, etc., etc. But if I want particularly linen on the bed that's you know, I want it my way as my boudoir, so I can invite you into my boudoir, or he invite me into his boudoir, is great, particularly when we've both had a great night's sleep. So we have to shake it all up and go, just because we sometimes don't sleep together doesn't mean that our marriage has fallen apart. It's actually gone to a whole new level. So this is the other stuff.
And also, like, you know, it can be that doing this sort of thing, this sort of work, it gets too intense. If you're in the field of somebody else and you know, and sleep is about restoration as well, like you're restoring yourself. So you need some space for that. And sometimes it's like, whoa, you know, you're out here sort of thing, and that's bumping into the energy fields of someone else. And that can be useful at different times, really can be. However, there are times, and we're still in that time, where it's like it's easier and more nourishing to actually have your own deliberate space. And then you can get up as you need to or not, sort of thing. And you have that where the doona isn't being pulled one way or the other, that one as well, right? That sort of thing. I've got to talk to a you know, sort of thing. It's you just solve a lot of things and you feel good, really great. And the thing is, the kids recognise, and we were doing this when our kids were as late teenagers. We found this useful for us, and they go, you know, we don't see the love changing, Dad, you know, sort of thing. It's all there still. And I was, you know, I did another job for a while, so I was having to get up early. So I wasn't disturbing Dee getting up early to go off to do that. So she stayed in her sort of cocoon when I went off to toddle off to do this other early starts sort of thing that I was doing at that time. So it's, you know, you mold this to suit your own needs. You have to be creative and flexible rather than this fixated thing. I remember my mum and dad, they used to sleep in a double bed.
Oh.
I don't know, like, you remember the beds of our parents? Like, they were bloody tiny. And I don't know how you did it, guys. I don't know how they did it. They must have slept like this, you know, like, you know, a single bed is bigger than a double bed. You know, if you could put two single beds together, it's like, at least have your own space, your own mattress, your own thing. But that's my thinking, not their thinking, not the world they grow up in. So I'm not critical of that, but it doesn't work for me. So I have to create a world that works for me.
Yes.
And that's
what we're speaking about is we've worked out the recipe that is unique to us.
Yep.
It doesn't apply to anybody else. We're just throwing out ideas. Find out what works for you, that keeps it alive, that keeps it fresh. You know, that whole sense of like every time you make love could be the very first time.
And it is, because there's never been a moment like that before.
Yeah.
Because if you're playing the fourth dimension thing of time, that moment has never existed before. So here you go. So the whole thing is, the idea for me is you wake up in the morning and I'll see Dee and it's like a new time. It's a new moment. It's like, I don't go to bed going, oh, fuck, I'm sort of married for 25 years. Oh, she was one of the same crap. You know, it's like,
woman?
Who is this woman? You know, sort of,
First Dates, that movie.
You know, it's like, a little bit of that can be useful. It's like, you just take the opportunity to start fresh again. So you're bringing freshness into yourself. It's like new life, new breath, rather than just stale energy, stagnant stuff, you know, and carrying attitude about the other. Let it go, you know, let it go.
And there are little markers, you know, like I've started, I know this sounds incredibly simple, but so if I come downstairs and in the kitchen before Clive, I've started filling his water up for him first thing in the morning so that he then can just lift up his water. And what I've noticed is that he fills up the kettle now, so that when I lift it up to make up tea, it's already full. So there's little Yeah, but I've just noticed it.
So sometimes, fellas, it's the long game. It's the long game. You know, so, just notice.
So like those things are like little, you know, marking the future pacing, just little moments where they go, oh, they thought of me. Just small, just small. And sometimes they're really large. I remember once we were at an art gallery and there were lots of paintings there, and Clive said, "Would you like one? Let's buy one."
It was a friend of ours who was having this exhibition as well.
And I went through and I went all through all of them, and I said, "There's only one I like, and it's already sold." Guess who bought it? So he knew.
So we have a very similar aesthetic. I think that's the point there. Architecturally or structurally or design wise, we have a lot of simpatico or similarity with that. So that's again part of that mutuality of ideas or values. Again, this comes back to that value thing. You know, we're not opposites. Some people talk about opposites attracting and all of that story. We could be opposites if I hadn't sorted my shit out before. And really, if we could be opposites, because I wouldn't have dealt with so much, and therefore I needed something else to project at, to have that antagonism to come back and go, all that stuff that goes on. So it's,
and I'll just add, you love to shop.
Right.
Meaning that when we have the time to go shopping, he'll say, "You haven't been to that store. Do you want to go in there?"
I won't go in if they got no funny smells going.
No. And then so what a lot of women have to do is they hide their purchases, or they hide their credit cards, or all that sort of stuff. Whereas Clive would say, "Wow, you want to spend that amount on? I don't care. You buy that pair of shoes that makes you happy, and I'll deeply appreciate them along with you. So I don't have to hide that or dumb down that expression of myself." He appreciates that, which I find is quite rare from my conversations.
Yes, exactly.
Yes.
And sometimes we've created a common fund for that sort of stuff. Like, we allow that. And these recent years, we sort of have our own more, we've allocated to ourselves so that at our own discretion, as we need to, we can go ahead and do that, because that's within that, and that's each of ours agreement wise. And then there's a common, and there might be a holiday account or something like that where this sort of opportunity comes out. Or I might go from my private fund, "Hey, Dee, do you want to buy that?" And she'll either go yes or no, and I can shout it or not. And there's times you go, "Oh, I should have said yes, shouldn't I?" I said, "Yeah, you missed that one." But it's like, but it's all about receiving. There's moments when you go, "Did you want to receive?" And you go, "Oh, could I really wear that?" No, okay, well, it passes. So if you want to, you have to get it yourself now. So like, there's this nice little moments of moving in and moving out. It's not nasty or naughty. It's just a pleasure to offer it. And if it's not taken up, well, it's not taken up. But that moment has passed. That's little boat has just sailed, and I might get something.
I have learned to receive.
Yep. And I've learned to receive too, because that's the thing for blokes too. We're good at giving. Everybody's pretty good at giving, but we're mostly not very good at receiving. So,
So therefore, without that, this whole toroidal
yeah,
flow can't happen.
Yeah.
So we're both about that.
And that's how, in some ways, the current system that's sort of generally in most people's lives really stuffs people around. They try and keep that in place so that this conflict is ever present. So we have to sort out our own conflict, and then remake ourselves. We make ourselves in our
Divine.
In our own divinity, if you like. We are divine. We are angelic humans. That's what we're here to be.
Mm.
The other stuff, I'm not sure what some of the other stuff is out there, but we're here to do this. So we have, and it's commitment, it's an obligation, it's a willingness. It's many of these things, but it's living your own truth out, living it, not talking about it. It's actually doing it, and that's what I used to say to the kids. And as adults now, I'll hear it fed back to me. It's like, well, you didn't tell us to do it. We just saw you do it. And that's how I know. So I learned to cook because my dad didn't. I learned to cook with my mum, sort of thing, when I was a youngster, because I wanted some food, because I was hungry, because my mum wasn't her first thought. So, and then my dad started to cook as well. And then our son being born, I could cook as much as what Dee could. There would be days when I do the cooking, make a curry or do an omelette or things like that. And he learnt to see that a man actually cooks, a man actually lights a fire, a man actually
A man
cleans,
does the
a
dishes.
man actually cleans, cleans the car or cleans the house and things like that. So it's not a demarcation. It depends how you want to share the load with each other, because some of this is a chore, it's a load. Cut the grass, whatever it is, mow the lawn, walk the dog, sort of thing. So it's, go shopping, do the shopping, so, you want to get, as a guy, go shopping and be coherent with the prices that are out there on the supermarket shelves or the market. Know the people at the market. Know a really good butcher, know a really good greengrocer or at the market, because that's where your nourishment of those things are coming in from, but also looking after yourself by giving yourself time to enjoy yourself. Go to an art gallery if you want, go to the beach, jump in the surf, just go for that swim, go for that walk, go and have a coffee on your own, go to a movie on your own. You don't have to take your wife or your partner or your husband with you. Go and, if it really means that much to you and they don't want to do it, great, go and do it. Don't go, oh, well, I'm not going because you didn't do it.
And I think there's nothing more attractive and sexy, I'll just say this from the point of view of a woman, it's foreplay. Vacuuming for a man to do all of that and to cook and do all that sort of stuff, that's foreplay. And that's probably too crass a word to sort of say it, but
washing the dishes,
changing
the nappies,
all of that.
Those
it
days.
Just means
taking
that
the child
she then has energy for you.
Yes, right.
She's not depleted at the end of the day.
And you're just one more thing to be
one
done.
more thing to be done at 11:15 at night, the other thing to be ticked off the list. No, you've contributed energetically to, and then you can create the space, the willingness to be together. Any more questions, Patricia?
I think that was pretty good. I didn't have very many questions.
No. And I will say there is, I did mention, because we one of the things that we have, or I have on lightandco.earth, is a pendulum transmission called Divine Union. And it is specifically for those people who are calling in this, if it's not already there, or to strengthen the one that they already have. And it is, just reaching across. This is the primary pendulum that comes in. So this is the Divine Love one. And it's an exquisite transmission. And you can feel those codes landing, because it's bringing in the resonance and the geometry of that relationship so that it's in your field.
And that's rubelites and pearls and rubies.
That's the Divine Mother.
Yeah.
And so
it's exquisite.
So we already have started on this, and it's just going to grow from there. But and I
laying the groundwork, we're cultivating the ground,
yes.
preparing. So much time is spent preparing the ground, preparing the, and then
the execution. Yeah, we'll wait and see exactly how it all flows out, but we're ready.
Yeah,
we're ready for the great adventure.
We're in moving times, aren't we?
Yeah,
moving times.
And I'll put those links on the YouTube and the podcast. I'll put those links there.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And there was also the conversation that we had about, it's all part of planting the seed, right? But you're moving house, and you're moving house into a different area, so that you have to be, and I don't like the word have, but I'm going to use that one. So you have to be more social.
Yes.
Because the two of you have been not isolated, but you've been in this little pod creating, right? And now you're moving house into an area where you will have access to more people and be able to affect more people. So I love that. Yeah.
It is true. Our son used to say, you two live like monks, and so now we're ready. We're ready to come out, to be in community, to speak, and to offer what we have. So yes, and it is a shift, moving to a different place, which means that we're letting go of a lot We'll bring with us what's really important, and it is a whole fresh start. And I know the community that we're speaking to recognize this time. This is, we've crossed the Rubicon, as I say. It's like we've moved into these new times. Many of us are moving house. Many of us are changing it and shifting around. This is it. And we come now with the clarity. We bring all our gifts to the fore with no fear of blocking or retribution or any of those things that we've had stymied. And it's like, no, clear sailing now with the intention, with the courage. Just have the courage to do it. And so the dynamics of how it's fully expressed will show themselves as we move forward. But it's going to be fun.
So are you, I don't think that right now. I saw it on the website. So are you going to include something about that on your website?
I will in time. Once we've moved, I'll update everything.
Good.
Yeah, the Instagram is a little bit more live. So we're much more live and flexible within that.
So it's on Light & Co, you meaning more?
Well,
more
the Manifesto of Light and the Light & Co Instagram buttons all go to the same Instagram. Yeah.
Okay.
And so Clive's going to be a little bit more active on that Instagram.
Did you get that, Clive?
I got the memo.
Well, thank you both for coming on and sharing, and some wonderful stories, some wonderful advice, something to look forward to, suggestions, something to look forward to.
Yes.
So thank you for doing that. And I'm going to close this one, and I want everybody to check back, though, because they may be coming back very soon with updates about this new adventure, this new offering.
Thank you, Patricia. You're a wonderful, wonderful human. Thank you.
Thanks, Patricia. Thank you.
All right. I'm going to stop the recording. Don't leave, though.